Howdy, y'all. I don't know why I wanted to start this off with a howdy, but I gotta stay true to my Oklahoma roots. Howdy, y'all. How's it going? This is Jacob, and welcome back to Sunday Yap Session. If you're new here, every Sunday I come on here and yap at y'all about something with hopefully some sort of through line, storyline that connects all of it. And sometimes we do better than others, but we're gonna do our best every single time. We've got two drinks that we're gonna be drinking on today. I've got the Polar again. The Polar has been a smash hit. I like this. And then also like the remnants of an iced coffee that I had earlier. This coffee was $8, which feels excessive. It was delicious though. I don't know. I be going to these coffee spots every once in a while, and sometimes I am just so gagged by the prices. On one hand, I love supporting small businesses. I'm sure this is what this actually needs to cost to make sure the employees get a fair wage, so I'm totally down for it. But I feel like these prices motivate me to make coffee at home, so at least I guess that's nice. It motivates me to do things for myself. I would have made my own coffee, but I'm completely out of coffee because I've been putting off buying groceries for like 2 weeks, so really this is my fault. I don't know why I'm trying to blame these employees for or these businesses. But anyways, yes, welcome to Sunday Yap Session. If you're new here, if you're interested in yapping with me every single week, I would encourage you to subscribe. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like as well. That really helps me out. Before we get started, I kind of wanted to do like a little life update and kind of just what I've been up to. And first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you all so much for blowing up that apartment tour. I was not expecting that video to perform as well as it did. I was really happy with it. I think it was really well edited. I'm really happy with how I did it. But that video has gotten like 7 times as many views as any of these other videos in the series. So I was really pleasantly surprised that you all really enjoyed that. So thank you so much for all of you who watched that and shared it and commented on it. It was really cool talking to y'all in the comments. And there was a lot of people from a lot of different places too. I think there was someone from South Africa who commented, someone from Malaysia. So it was really cool. And that's really one of the things I really like about making content online and making videos specifically is you are able to reach so many people from across the world that I never would be able to get in contact with otherwise. I love the internet. I love content creation. I love all of this because I think it's really cool how we're able to kind of connect to each other, bridge the distance that is the globe that we're on. So I think that's really, really cool. Also, let me know if y'all notice anything different or notice like a positive or negative about the video quality this time. I'm doing something a little bit different with the filming setup today, and I'm doing some different camera settings and stuff. So if y'all like the way this looks, or if you don't even notice it looks different than normal or so on and so forth, let me know below because I'm trying to experiment with this and always trying to make these look better and better. Maybe one day I'll do a behind the scenes of like how I film all these things, but like the setup that I've got going on is very simple, very DIY, very just kind of using what I have. So let me know if this is something that looks good or if there's adjustments that need to be made. I'm always very open to feedback, always open to tweaking things, always open to adjusting. Yeah, this coffee is good. Dang, there's not even any creamer in it. It's just, okay. Sorry to the barista who made this. I'm sorry. So last time I yapped with y'all, I talked about how I was going to be going on a little weekend trip over to the lake, which I just got back from a couple days ago. That was so much fun. Going out there, I always forget how much I like going to the lake. It is such a beautiful, beautiful place. It is so gorgeous. The weather was immaculate. It was never too hot. It was never too cold. Anytime there was a breeze, it was like the perfect amount. It was really probably like the best, most relaxing weekend I've had in a very, very long time. So I really, really enjoyed that. I keep talking about how beautiful it was, but it was just so pretty, especially at the sunset. We were pretty much outside the entire time that we were hanging out, unless we were like playing Dungeons and Dragons or something, because the group that I went with was my Dungeons and Dragons party, and it was really just such a great time. One of the friends group in particular has a house at the lake that's owned by her family, so we were hanging out there the entire time, sitting out on the balcony, just enjoying watching the waves go by and watching the boaters go by. It was so much fun. I got to do a lot of swimming, which was a really good time. We got to go out on the boat for a little bit, and that was really fun too, until we almost got hit by a much larger boat that was not paying attention because it was the 4th of July weekend, so there were a ton of people out there boating. I'm assuming a lot of people were out there boating and drinking because the waterways are kind of just the wild west. There are like boat police, I guess, but you can't traverse this entire water and make sure that people are not driving like maniacs. So that was a little spooky at one point, and the waters were pretty choppy too, so there were a lot of times where we were like catching some really big air as we were bumping on the waves and stuff. But that was really a lot of fun too. And just being outside in general. I've talked a lot about how, you know, I'm inside a lot of times with my work, or I'm doing a lot of things that are just involving the computer and my professional and just like my hobbies and just socializing and things like that. So I really have to make a lot of intentional effort to spend time outside, and as a result, I'm not out there nearly as much as I should be. So it was really just fun, just spending the entire weekend being outside. I feel like I slept like a baby every single night because we had just worn ourselves out from either swimming or just like socializing, playing games. So it was really just like such a nice weekend, and I had such a good time. It was great. We even got to see some fireworks too, because they were doing fireworks shows over the lake and stuff too. So it was just immaculate, just incredible vibes. It was super, super fun. That is definitely one of the places where I feel I could just spend my entire life out there. Just if I had like a fully remote job or something, I totally would just move out there, be by the lake every single weekend and just like swim and stuff like that. It was really, really fun. Other than that, that's pretty much all I did this weekend. I also have 2 podcasts that are out. I was on 2 different podcasts. I was on one that's called It Really Is That Deep with Kendall, who's one of my TikTok and Instagram mutuals, who we just kind of been liking each other's content and really been into what each other are doing. So they hit me up in the DMs and was like, hey, you should come on my podcast. That'll be really, really fun. And I was absolutely down. I'll link it below. We had such a good conversation over there. And then I had another podcast that I was on called A Friend for the Long Haul, which is a podcast hosted and centrally around people who are dealing with ME/CFS and long COVID. And I was her first guest on there that didn't have long COVID. So it was really cool kind of talking to her and just talking about COVID and the pandemic and all of the trials and tribulations that we've gone through, and kind of just reflecting on how things have changed and what we want to see in the world and what we do better and stuff like that. The podcast with Kendall was also around COVID and masking and things like that, but we kind of talked about other things as well. Those were 2 really, really good conversations. So if you're someone who's interested in podcasts, I will link both of those down below. I would really encourage you to listen to them. I had so much fun. I really enjoy doing that, which shouldn't really be a surprise considering I've made an entire series on here centered around yapping, that I love going on podcasts. It is not very hard for me to sit on here and talk about things. It is not very hard for me to go on a podcast and talk about things. So if you have a podcast and you want to talk to me, I will make myself available, because I love yapping and I love connecting with people and love having nice, organic, authentic conversations. Because that's the thing I really liked about these podcasts too. There was a couple things that we wanted to touch on throughout, but the conversations were really, really organic, and I really liked that, and I really felt good doing that because it kind of aligned with what I do here. I come on here and I make these videos, and sometimes I have an idea of what I want to talk about, a general theme of what I want to talk about, but I am never like scripting these videos out. I just sit down and I talk about what I want to talk about, and we go from there and kind of see what happens. So it was really fun kind of being on 2 podcasts where they were similarly matching my energy and kind of taking a similar approach and tone to the podcast format. So that was really, really cool. And it was really cool just talking to 2 people who are really COVID cautious and are really passionate about, masking, making sure that we're protecting ourselves and the community around us and stuff like that. Because a lot of times I talk about these things and talking about COVID, there is a part of me that feels kind of like a tinfoil hat, like being hyper vigilant about things, because a lot of people just have accepted life going back to normal, even though this is still a threat. So it was really nice too, just kind of connecting with these 2 people that are on the same page about that. And we have very similar values about the pandemic and just how we should carry ourselves and conduct ourselves and look out for our community. So that was also really, really nice as well. And we finished the iced coffee. We're moving on to the seltzer water. Oh, also, if any of y'all are disco music fans by chance, I made a playlist for one of the podcasts because I was talking to her about how much I love disco and how much I really enjoy disco music. And she was like, you should make a playlist about it. So if you are into disco, I have like a 2.5-hour disco playlist that I'll link below that y'all can listen to, because that was something that has really gotten me through the early days of the pandemic when I was super heavy into the lockdowns and we weren't able to go out and do really anything. I was spending so much time just like walking around my house or being in the kitchen listening to disco music and stuff. So that was really something that like helped me through those early pandemic days. And I say early because it's still ongoing. We're still going through this. This is still happening, even if we're not treating it like the public health emergency that it is. And on that note too, in the apartment tour video, I mentioned about how yellow was my favorite color. And I said that if y'all want to hear that story, I would be happy to share it. A couple of y'all commented that you wanted to hear it. So I guess we can talk about that. Something that I didn't mention in that video is that this is not really like a fun story. It's not like a lighthearted story. So I probably should have like made that a little bit more clear in the video, because I kind of just, like I do about a lot of things that are serious and upsetting in my life, I'm just like, oh yeah, like this, da-da-da-da-da. So I will share that story. I will warn you, we are going to talk about, I don't know if I can say this like out front on YouTube, but we're going to be talking about feelings of not wanting to be in this world anymore, if y'all pick up on my drift. So if you don't want to hear conversations about that, it's not going to get super graphic or anything, but this would be the time to exit, or I'll put a timestamp of where I'm done talking about this or whatever. So for a little bit of context, in the summer of 2020, it was around the time I graduated college, I moved to Rhode Island from Oklahoma. I am now back in Oklahoma, and I lived in Rhode Island for about a year, and I moved up there to live with my partner at the time, who I'm no longer with, and I'm with a different partner now. And before we get any further too, we're gonna be talking about my previous relationship a little bit. I will probably not talk about this very much at all on this channel, or just publicly on the internet at all, partially because I haven't even gotten through all that in therapy, and I'm not gonna, like I've talked before, I'm not bringing anything to y'all that I have not talked with a professional first, because I do not like being messy online, and I try to be transparent and share things that are personal and share things that are important to me. But I know what I have resolved and I feel good talking about, and I know what needs to be pondered a little bit more before I bring it here. So I'm gonna just put that boundary up here now, so please do not ask about this any more than I'm going to be sharing about it. Also also too, our lives are still a little bit intertangled. I don't talk to him anymore, but I do talk to like his friends and stuff like that. And I know some of his family like watches my videos and stuff too, because we're not like, I'm not beefing with any of them or anything like that. So I talk about this stuff very delicately just because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And also too, I've never been someone who wants to like air out my dirty laundry online and stuff like that. So I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna encourage you all to not ask me anymore about my relationship stuff like that. I'll talk about my current relationship all day because we're good and we're solid, and he's online too. So like he's used to being talked about and stuff like that. But this chapter of my life has not fully been resolved, we will say. So I talk about it as much as I want to, and that's gonna be all that you're gonna hear. So I moved to Rhode Island, and around the time that I was about to graduate college was when the first initial lockdown and the first wave of COVID hit the United States. Before all of this happened, I was really excited to kind of get a start on my life. I was moving up to the like Northeast, so I was excited to be in close proximity with like Boston and New York City and all of that. And I was really feeling like a lot of excitement, especially as a queer person too, because I was going to be in an area where there were a lot more queer people and it was a lot more queer friendly. So I was really excited to kind of explore that part of my life and explore those communities up there. And then of course COVID hit and all of those dreams kind of crashed and burned, but I still moved up there anyway because I had kind of like set everything up and had planned to be doing that. We had been doing like apartment hunting and stuff. Well, he had been doing it kind of on my behalf because obviously he was there and I was still back in Oklahoma for college. So we were kind of like still planning on doing that. So I ended up moving anyway during the beginning of the pandemic. Would not recommend. Not a good idea to kind of uproot your life during a time where you're not really able to go out and do anything. But hindsight is 2020, and I would have done things differently than I did when I was there. So I move up there. I'm dealing with kind of the general issues of just being in lockdown and not being able to do anything and feeling very isolated. I'm also dealing with over time realizing that this relationship was not something that was making me happy. We were not. See, you can see the cogs turning in my brain about how I want to talk about this delicately. Long story short, I realized that the relationship was not serving me, and it was not something I was really happy in, and it was not something that I was really interested in continuing. I was also having a gender identity crisis throughout that and was really kind of grappling with who I was, if I was a man or if I was non-binary, or kind of how I felt about myself. I was also really struggling too because I was not being able to make any new friends really. There were a couple people that I met like outside of my boyfriends at the time's friends, but most of the people I met and became friends with ended up being wild people that I am so glad that I do not talk to anymore. There were some real weird situations that I had found myself in. Shout out to my friend Brian that I made up there though. He was such a sweetie, such a nice person. I was really grateful for making friends with him because that was one of the main friendships that I made up there that was just normal and chill and cool, and we had a really good time up there. So shout out to him because you were like the main friend that I had up there that was not acting a fool. I was also in a job that I didn't really like. Well, one job that I didn't really like, and one that I was dealing with like weird subliminal discrimination and stuff too. So there was just like a lot of things going on that were not working in my favor. I was having a lot of internal unhappiness with a lot of the situations I was in, and it was getting to the point where it was getting really bad and really bad, and I like didn't really have any outlet to process it. Not to say that everything was bad too, because there were some really good times while I was up there too. It's not like I was miserable and horrible the whole time, but there was just like so much going on, and I was also in a place too where, like I mentioned, I wasn't really able to go out and do much. So I just had a lot of time to just kind of like sit with myself and sit with my thoughts and kind of evaluate what I wanted and what life path I was on and if I wanted to be on this life path anymore. And it was getting real dark for a while. I felt like I was looking at my life and I saw how everything was, and it was almost like I could see kind of into the future. It felt like I was on a path and on a trajectory that would be fine and everything would be all right and nothing probably bad would happen, but I wasn't really feeling like fulfilled by anything that was really going on. And I felt like a lot of things were kind of like sucking my energy, and I was having to kind of compromise myself and how I felt and what I wanted and so on and so forth. So I was just generally just very unhappy. I don't think I've ever actually really said this like publicly online other than like some of my friends and stuff, but in that apartment too, we had like a balcony that I would go out and sit on sometimes. And there were a lot of moments where I was kind of thinking about my life and thinking about what was going on. And we'll just say that if I happened to stumble off the balcony, I wouldn't be upset, is how we will put that. But a lot of times when I was kind of working, because one of my jobs was in person, I was working as a substitute teacher at a school over there, but then I was also working remotely, doing some other stuff. And when I was working remotely, or just in general, because it was like the summertime when I moved up there, a lot of times I would go like and sit out on the balcony, and I would just sit out there, work on my little computer and stuff. And sometimes I would just like lay out there and just sit there and close my eyes, feel the heat of the sun and feel the intensity of the rays and like the warmth kind of shining on me. And that was like a lot of the moments that really made made me feel good. Literally just like the energy of the sun and like the color, the feeling, kind of the environment and all of that really helped me like feel good and really made me like feel better. And I associate that with the color yellow. Obviously the sun is yellow, but also that's kind of just like the color I attach to the heat and the sensation. Yellow is such like a warm color and all of that. So that's why yellow is my favorite color, because I feel like that color, that feeling, that sensation, the sun essentially in a lot of ways saved my life. If I did not have that balcony, if I did not have that space to like sit out and enjoy the sun and enjoy the heat, who knows if I would be here. Because in a lot of ways, it felt like that was one of my options, and the other one was to just like sit and suffer and bear with all of these things that didn't make sense to me and were not making me happy and did not make me feel good and yada yada yada. And so that has kind of just been like a constant motif as I've kind of started focusing more on my mental health and started trying to address some of these like things that are going on and feel better about myself. Yellow has kind of just been like this comforting sort of thing. So when I moved into this place, I wanted it everywhere because it's kind of just a visual reminder, feeling better and feeling like I can kind of overcome the negative situations that I'm in. And I also feel like too, like it's a very, at least for me, it's a very calming color. Calming and like invigorating too. Like I feel like yellow is a very warm, inviting, comforting, peaceful color. And so I really wanted to make this space representative of kind of those emotions and making sure that when I come here, I feel like really at peace and feel really like comfortable and feel safe. Because for a lot of parts of my living experience up there, that is not how I felt. I don't know, I felt very, very exposed in a lot of ways, especially too living with another person and kind of processing all of those things and not really being able to like verbalize a lot of them. And then some of the issues being attached to the other person you're living with. I didn't really have like a lot of like alone space and alone time to kind of process those feelings because I was always in proximity of another person. So it really felt like vulnerable and felt really exposed and like didn't really feel like super safe a lot of times, mostly from just like being perceived and not like I was experiencing like violence or anything like that. Like I want to make that super clear. I was not being physically abused or anything like that. Like this was not it was not that. So yeah, so that's why I like the color yellow so much. It really has been holding me down and takes me to a time where like I felt good. And yellow makes me feel good. It took me a lot to not just go crazy and put yellow all over the place and stuff like that. I've tried to make it like a tasteful amount of yellow, a lot of pops of yellow. I was thinking about painting the entire bathroom yellow too. We talked in the apartment tour about how I think that bathroom is so ugly. I do think some yellow paint would make it nice, but I just like can't be bothered. We talked about that already. I can't be bothered to like put in all that work. That's too much. I will say too, as a side, finding yellow things that are this kind of warm golden shade of yellow and not like highlighter fluorescent yellow is very, very difficult. All of these things that I've curated have taken a lot of time, and there were things that I wanted more too. I just like cannot find things in yellow. Yellow is like a hard color. I guess like maybe people don't really like it as much, or they don't like this specific tone, but it is very, very difficult to find things that are yellow and fit my little aesthetic and stuff. So pat on my back for me for finding all this yellow stuff. But yeah, and that's part of the reason too why I was so interested and so excited to be in this space by myself and be able to make it a space that feels good for me and is what I want and looks like what I want and so on and so forth. Because a lot of the living situations where I haven't been living with my parents at home either have been like, you know, at university where I'm in proximity to a whole bunch of other people and you can't really do a ton, like you have roommates and stuff. I think there was like only one time when I was in college where I didn't have a roommate. And then of course that living situation was not super ideal for me either. So this was the first time where I've had like a living situation that I've really been able to make a space that is for me, that makes me feel good, that is centered around making me comfortable and making me feel safe and able to invest in my creative energy and do stuff like this and engage with y'all and things like that. So this space really, really does mean a lot to me, and hopefully that adds a little bit more context as to why I am so like passionate about these things and why I have put so much work into this space, because it really has been like such a fulfilling journey for me. And kind of like I talked about, I wasn't sure if this was going to be something that I would even be able to do because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get this far. I'm good now. I was good then. Even though I did have like those thoughts and feelings, that is never something that if I have ever like wanted to act on. Like I said in the video talking about the pandemic, I see myself living forever and ever and ever. I feel like I'm going to be super, super old, and y'all will see it because I'm probably going to be doing these YouTube videos forever. So I'm going to be like 110 years old here on YouTube if it's still a thing in the future, yapping about the retirement home or whatever. So don't ever have any worries that I'm not going to be here one day and I'm not going to be like on this earth. I'm only going to get taken out by external factors. Like if I get sick or something or someone takes me out, it is never going to be by my own hand. And if that ever happens, and if anyone ever makes it seem like that, someone's coming for me, girl, and y'all better investigate and figure it out. Do one of those little true crime podcasts, figure out who done it, because it was not me. But yeah, so there's a little bit of insight into me and why I have made this place the way I have and why I love yellow so much. My favorite color of all time. My favorite color before that was blue, so kind of opposite interesting, because blue I guess is more like associated with like gloomy and sadness and stuff like that. And I think that's honestly all I really wanted to talk about today. Wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to talk about today, but then I remembered, oh, I presented something that y'all wanted to hear and y'all told me that you wanted to hear it, so I might as well do that. So I will see you all next week. Like I said at the beginning, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, because it really does help a lot. And if you want to subscribe and yap with me every single Sunday, I would encourage you to do so. I'm going to be here every Sunday yapping about something and telling y'all about some part of my life or what's going on or what I'm seeing out in the world. So hopefully I will see you here every single Sunday as well. Again, be sure to check out those podcasts that I mentioned. Those two hosts do a really, really good job and invest a lot of time like I do with this show. So be sure to show them some love, because they were really kind and very gracious and really made like a safe, comfortable environment where I felt comfortable talking and being very, very candid. If you enjoy how candid I am here and how kind of I just talk about things like as they are, that is how those podcasts are, and I think you'll really enjoy those conversations as well. So I'll link those below and be sure to check those out. So I will see y'all next week, and thank you all so much for watching.